So for the people that don't know, what's a little bit about you and like how you came into this whole world of breath work and where you're at now with things?
Yeah, that's right. So Sonar Breath is like a culmination of a lot of things that happen in my life. And some of the core ingredients are the music. So the music is very close to my heart. Like music is medicine, it's the language of the soul. And it is something that connects the whole world. You know, one song can be recognized by the whole world, right? Like, you know, Michael Jackson's song, for example. Beatles song, like the whole world knows what it is, and everyone understands it and feels it, and emotions are conjured up by like magic by music, right? Music can change your state like a drug can. So you know, music is very powerful, and music creates culture as well. So you know, you listen to all the different types of music that exists on the planet, from you know, rock and roll. There's a certain type of person who goes to a rock and roll concert compared to like somebody goes into a gangster rap concert, right? There's a culture being created, like lots of cultures within cultures by the music. The music is the culture creator. So I came from the UK, and I was born to immigrant Indian parents who are very much all about academics. Study, 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 you know, because they had a very tough time themselves, like trying to survive. So they're all about security. So they were like, you can do what you want as long as you become do something that's safe and secure, like become a doctor or a pharmacist or a lawyer or accountant or something like that. So I went into pharmacy. That's what I did as a degree. But my passion is music. Like my dad gave me a keyboard when I was like 14 years old, and it changed my life. It's kind of all my dad's fault because he got me hooked on making composing music. I I got really good at making my. He didn't give me any lessons. That was another unique thing. Didn't have any lessons, so I never got trained formally. But I got really into making my own music, and then listened to a lot of rave music. Back then, we used to have little cassettes, and on there there'll be DJ mixes. So I got really into rave, underground dance music, and I started to make like really cool beats on my laptop. Sorry, on my synths. I didn't have a laptop yet, and this is way before the times of laptops. And then basically, I got cool at school. So I was the kid who got beaten up at school. So I was a small, little, skinny Indian kid. And there's a sport called rugby, which is a really brutal version of American football, right? It's like there's no armor, there's no protection. You just beat the shit out of each other. And so I got my head kicked in often. So as a way to escape that, I got an excuse where I could go into the music studio and just jam. And I had a similar keyboard to the ones I had in the music school. So I used to link all these keyboards up and make like rave music. And then that got me like cool at school. I was suddenly like cool. And people were like, wow, this guy makes all these cool beats. And then I started to do little gigs. And then one thing led to another where I started to run my own little parties, 200 people kind of club nights. And back then the culture was drum and bass. So I used to wear like baggy jeans, like spliffy t-shirts, you know, everyone used to smoke weed all the time. It's a little bit like hip hop culture, but different. But yeah, so we're all into drum and bass, we're all rebellious, we're all like anti-establishment kind of people, but we love coming together, dancing, celebrating life and having a good time. So that turned into me running a 2,000 people club event for 3 years. So it's 2,000 people every month for 3 years. That was my big passion, right? So that was my first business. I was only like 18, 19 when it started. And then I went through university and I became a pharmacist. But I actually was running this business most of the time. And then I got into a very crazy hedonistic lifestyle, like, because it's like club culture, partying, drugs, alcohol, girls, you know, like everything, like wild, like sex, drugs, rock and roll. So I did that for a bit and it burned me out. I lost my way a little bit and lost everything. And then my mum, who had been telling me, you study and go to school, you know, and be pharmacist, she suddenly was like, I told you so, you know. So fucked up and had to go back to being a pharmacist. I finished my degree and be an actual pharmacist. So then for 7 years, I worked as a pharmacist. Like, I went from illegal drug dealer to legal drug dealer literally overnight. And I was now like dishing out pills, prescription medications every day. And my soul was just dying, right? I was just crushed. And also, I could see that there was a problem with this business model. Because our business model of pharmacy means that if you cure a customer of your medication, they're not going to need that medication anymore. So you lose that customer. So the whole business model of pharmacy revolves around subscription, taking a pill for the rest of your life, right? So I just couldn't, I just felt it was really corrupt. I didn't see people getting better. So that killed me even more. And then in the end, I tried loads of different ways to get out of my pharmacy degree and my job as a pharmacist. And I ended up throwing this massive rave in London, put all my money into it. I had borrowed money off my uncle and all of this, and it all flopped. And I didn't have my eye on the ball, and I was going to unknown territory. Thought I could do it all over again, and lost even more money. And now I'm more in debt, more depressed, more disillusioned. Then a friend of my friend of mine back then takes me to a Tony Robbins event, and he says, you know, you need this. This is you're screwed. Like, what are you doing? With your life, come to this event. I was like, what the hell? Tony Robbins, that's not my thing. That's like guru nonsense. And anyway, he took me to it. But it was the best 3 days ever. And the last day was the first time I heard anyone talk about diet, nutrition, so even breathing, a little bit of breathing he talks about, as prevention for disease. First time anyone ever mentioned anything like that. So I was like, look, I'm going to put Tony Robbins to a test. I've got a pharmacy full of sick people. I'm going to see if this stuff works on them. All right, I made my own little experiment. So I started to do this process of giving people health information in 5 minutes with healthy shopping lists and links. And these healthy shopping lists, those who took action on it, going over, swapping their factory foods for real foods, got better. Within weeks, people were coming off medications, left, right, and center. Then people following the videos I was sending them through YouTube were getting better too. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. All right. So I was like, this stuff works. So anyway, long story short, I got fired from my first job for mismanaging the pharmacy, but then got promoted to head office of one of the biggest corporations in the UK, where they have a big supermarket and pharmacy all in one big store. So they loved my project of healthy shopping lists. So they wanted me to develop it for their website. So I got into it. 6 months into it, they shelved the idea suddenly. Like, the manager, if you want to know who really runs the world, it's the middle management, right? They're the bureaucracy, the red tape, the lawyers, the management consultants, the middlemen, right? Because I remember when I was in the corporate head office and it was really hard to get stuff going. Like, action takes ages in corporations. So I'll go to the director and be like, look, I want to get this off the ground. I'm trying to do this. Like, these guys are so slow. What's going on? He goes, welcome to my world. He says, your job is to get this lot to take action, right? To get them on your side, this is what I have to deal with every day. So a director might have amazing intentions, a great vision, a great plan. But if the middle management don't want to do it, then it's not going to work. So that's the same everywhere, in every single industry, from the government to tech to pharmacy to everything. The middle management run the show. It's like, that's how the world really works, if you want to know, like, you know. So I was like, I don't want to have a middle management. I want to have my own. I want to be the. I want to run. I want to be my own manager. I don't want to work for these people. They're too slow. So anyway, in the end, what happened was I got very disillusioned, depressed, and I ended up getting hit with an autoimmune disease. And this autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis left me housebound for almost a year, shitting blood 40 times a day. And it's the first time, like, where I really understood health from a much deeper level. Before, I was just changing people's diets, a little bit of lifestyle. But no, when you get autoimmune, you have to change your soul, your spirit. You got to change your core identity, who you believe about yourself, the world, and everyone. And my mindset was full of blame, hate, frustration, anger at my parents, anger at the system, anger at the Indian traditions, anger at pharmacy, the world. was like conspiracy, master. I knew more than Alex Jones probably at that time. And so like I was full of anger, rage, right? And that's a fire that burns within you. And if you don't know how to control that fire, it's going to burn you. And that's what colitis is, ulcerative colitis. You have a fire, creates an ulcer in your colon, and you shit blood, right? And that's what happened for a year, right? So I had two choices. Like either have my colon removed or be guinea pig for a drug that hasn't even been tested. That's all I had left. Now, they say God sounds a gift of desperation. And in my most absolute desperate moment of my life, an act of God, I would say, happened, right? Because I can't explain anything else. But a friend of our family now, called Swami Amkananda, a yoga teacher in the UK, she said to me, "You actually have a gift. If you can turn this around, you could be an amazing, inspiring role model for other people. You could use your tenacity to want to help people, your background as a pharmacist, your passion for creativity to create something great." So she said, look at this with positive eyes. And she says, I can teach you some fundamentals of yoga, which includes breathing exercise, pranayama. And then I'll teach you Ayurveda, fundamentals of Ayurveda, which is all about this basically fixing yourself from inside out, like understanding who you truly are, what you really want, what your core identity is, how to live a life more according to your truth. So, and that involves a lot of things, from lifestyle to diet to just the way you conduct your life and the way you look at the past and all this stuff. So I'm very deep into all of these practices, because just from the simple breathing techniques, such a relief for the first time of the pain, the symptoms. I was like, whoa, what is this stuff? So I went really down the breathwork, pranayama rabbit hole. And there was another book I discovered called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And Dr. Joseph Murphy was a pharmacist, but he also was an Ayurvedic practitioner, but also a Christian scientist. And he fused the two worlds of Christian science and Indian mysticism together. And he created a system called scientific prayers, which is the art of speaking to the unconscious mind, the God within us, to correct the malfunction that goes on in the operating system of the mind. So I started to create my own system of doing this, using a specific sequence of breathing techniques, time to music, because I found a new passion for making music. I was listening to a lot of stuff like brainwave entrainment and meditation music and stuff, and I was like, you know what, this is all whack. This is all out of date. Let me jazz this up, because I want to enjoy doing it myself. So I made the music for me that I would like to listen to when I'm doing these practices. But what I realized was that you can breathe to a beat, a rhythm, and that can create specific change in your physiology. And you can get into these trance states, which allows you to really reveal your unconscious mind and everything that's going on, all your programming. You can have an awakening-like experience and then become your own software program, reprogram the past. So I started to make these little breathwork journeys with music, breath, and rhythm to change my state and change my programming. And this started to get really, really good. Like the effects were incredible. And within 4 months, 4 to 5 months of this whole holistic system I was following, I healed myself completely of ulcerative colitis. And I started to get a lot of people asking me, like, how the hell do you do this? Like, what's going on? Like, I baffled all the doctors. All the doctors telling me there's no cure. You can shut up, take the pills, basically. Put so much fear into me. So I started to teach other people just for free on my Renegade Pharmacist website, renegadepharmacist.com. And in the end, the demand got so big that I made a course. And then that was the early days of our Soma breath techniques. And then that then eventually opened so many doors. The Renegade Pharmacist website went crazy viral because of a few infographics. There's a whole story behind that too. And then I met Wim Hof, became his right-hand man. Wim Hof's like one of the pioneers of like this transformation through breath. And we hit it off, and I made all the music to the Wim Hof method. And then I wanted to branch out, create a pharmacy of techniques, as I'm a pharmacist. So I went out, and that's Soma Breath. And things have just grown since. And now I have a whole other career as a music producer as well. I live in Ibiza. So I've just got a few big records release And one just happened like last week on a major. It's hit the charts already. So now I've got this other passion coming back where I'm like, we're known as well for the sober raves and breath raves, where I bring breathwork into dance music and we turn the rave into a sober rave, but you get really high off your own supply. So these are all the things I've been doing since.
Oh, man, there's so many different directions we could go to. I mean, first of all, just like um, salute to you for being able to tie everything together, figure things out for yourself. Like the word that comes to mind, just like high agency, like figuring things out on your own and applying it and using that power to help other people. So I guess what the place to start with the whole, I guess the main question people have is when they hear your story is like, how? Like, how did that breath work then go and help you with your ulcerative colitis? Like those two things for people seem so far and distant and unrelated. Would you say it comes down to like putting your body in a parasympathetic state so it's not freaking out and overreacting to other
That's
things?
the
Is
first
that,
step. That's
yeah,
the
that's the
first
first
step.
step.
Step one is to control the stress, all right? So one way is to switch off the stress, okay? So turn on your parasympathetic response. But that actually, ulcerative colitis is where you actually have a malfunctioning parasympathetic. It's where it's gone into overdrive, where because the symptoms are a lot to do with the post stress and then the recovery phase. A lot of the symptoms come in the recovery phase, in the parasympathetic phase. So you have to be very careful about like messing with it too much. But you can relieve some of the pain, right, through the breath. Every time you breathe out longer than you breathe in, right, you turn on parasympathetic. If you do it for a long enough period, like a few minutes. Now, certain rhythms, like breathing out for 4 seconds, in for two, and so on, right? Or out for eight, in for four, is beautiful for creating this harmony of your breath, like a rhythm of your breath that turns on your parasympathetic. But what it does is it helps you, especially the 4-8 pattern, to like get oxygen to areas of the body that maybe haven't been very well oxygenated before for a long time. So if you think about it, when you're really tense and stressed and angry, all of the blood vessels in your gut like narrow, right? You get reduced blood flow down here, right? And then what happens is you get acid being produced as well, a lot of acid, right? And that acid seeps down, and you get a combination of low blood flow, acid, and then a messed up gut microbiome. Because my gut microbiome got messed up by the alcohol abuse and drugs and all this crazy shit, and the stress, a lot of adrenaline and stress. So all of that, and also the gut microbiome gets messed up by deficient blood flow, right? So all you have to do is like kind of physically rewire that so that you get your stress response in control. So there's certain techniques to do that. First one is switching off stress to allow, but in a way which allows blood flow to come back into the area. So that's one part of the healing journey, right? The phase two is where we use a technique of producing intermittent hypoxia. Intermittent hypoxia has been studied in many studies now, and there's clinics all around the world which delivers a dose of intermittent hypoxia, which means lower than normal oxygen for a brief period in your bloodstream. So when you lower the oxygen for a brief period in your bloodstream, right, you freak the body out. You trick it into thinking you're running out of oxygen. You're going to die, basically. And that's positive stress response you get at the end of it, okay? When you hold your breath for around 60 to 90 seconds, this is actually the soma within that we produce, is a whole cocktail of different positive hormones and neurotransmitters. You have anandamide. I say, think of the acronym ADOS. You have anandamide, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, right? And that spells ADOS. And that makes you feel naturally high, blissed out. When you do enough durations of this, right, you get into very deep, powerful altered states of consciousness where your unconscious mind becomes programmable, right, by yourself consciously. You can change your own perception. You can use special mantras, affirmations, hypnotic programming language. We call it neurosomatic programming, where you're using the body to reprogram yourself, right? So you can do these kinds of special techniques that starts rewiring the programming within your unconscious mind. And what happens is, as we're born, we get programmed, right? Just think of yourself as a hardware and a software operating system. And as you get programmed, right, you're learning behaviors, how to think, how to believe, what to believe, belief system, BS, right? You're learning autopilot instincts, automatic intelligence. The real AI is your automatic intelligence, what you do instinctively on autopilot. So this is all the stuff you're getting programmed into believing and doing and taking action. And it's what explains why you are drinking a bottle of Coke right now, right? Coca-Cola.
Coke Zero. Yeah,
Coke
but
Zero.
yes,
Still
but yes, bad
Still
habit.
young. Yeah, but it's been programmed into you from a young age. It's not your fault. We all had it. I used to drink shitloads of it. I used to have that for breakfast, right? So, so like basically, we have all this what I call thought viruses, and these are programs that takes us away from our real truth, which is a superhuman, you know, super healthy, intelligent, charismatic, like generous, loving, a value to society, and all these positive traits that we'd want in our best version of ourselves. That's really your truth. That's who you truly are. But we get taken away from our truth because that's the cultural hypnosis that's programmed to be that way, to fit into this capitalist system where a few at the top make all the money, the rest are slaves at the bottom. Right? But there's loads of ways to break out of it and not be a slave. But that's how we've been structured from education to healthcare and everything, right? Governments. We've been programmed to become a little bit like servants and slaves. Now, if you are a free thinking artist, creative, stuck in this like prison, right? Which for a lot of people is, let's be real here. There's people who work 7 a.m. till like 10 at night, two or three jobs, can't pay the bills still. They literally have no life, right? There's a lot of people who go in traffic for an hour to work, right? And then work all day, come back, have an hour traffic, or even 2 hours sometimes back, and then they have like 10 minutes with their kids. And this goes on for years. And their wives, and they have a broken relationship as a result. Going on for years and so common, right? 1 in 5 people in America on antidepressants, right? It's crazy, right? Like 50% of people in America take a prescription medication. It's crazy. The number of depression is just off the roof. If depression's gone up by 25% because of COVID, it's a huge problem now. So there's a collective trauma in the world, even just thanks to COVID, right? Where everyone was turned into a servant of the system, right? A slave of big pharma. So much depression has come about as a result, and health problems and health issues. So look, society and this model of reality that we've been fed to us is not really for our best interests if you really look at it with the right length. I mean, you can make peace with it, you can come to terms with it, that's fine. But I wanted to break free. I've always been like that. I've been a renegade. I've been always like trying to break the rules, right? So I went through life doing that. I broke free with my big raves, but then lost everything and became a pharmacist. And then I saw the system for what it really is from the inside. And then again, rise to the top, see how corrupt the system is from a high bird's eye level now, from a corporate view, and then get that taken off me, right? Corruption, boom, bang. Now I'm so depressed and disillusioned. And so I'm trying all these things to escape the matrix, but I keep ending up, in the same place as a failure, right? So what I realized was that all these attempts I had to escape the matrix had led me to this one moment, right, where I really understood the way to help a lot of people break free, not just a few, which was what would have happened if if I got successful as a DJ, I wouldn't have helped many people. Like, trust me, that's not the world I want to go into. I would have probably corrupted more people, right? So the universe didn't want that for me. The universe didn't want to be a corporate, like, face of healthcare because it's bullshit. They're going to twist everything you say. That's not the thing. So for me, what I learned, and your core identity is something you may discover later on in life. It may not happen right now, which is your truth, your core values. You might have to go through a lot of shit to get this, because if your intention is to do something big for the world, right? The universal journey is going to force you to grow into the core identity of the person you need to be to step into the shoes of someone who's going to make a big impact in the world, right? So I had to go through all that shit because I made a big wish when I was a young kid, and boom, now I'm given the ultimate gift, which is the insight of how to cure disease, the insight of how to turn breathwork into magic, right? Into a way to really go into the next level. So, what I also learned was intermittent hypoxia, right? I'm not kidding. This is the most revered technique of pranayama, is holding your breath, right, to a point of around 60 to 90 seconds where we lower the oxygen of your bloodstream to around below 90% SpO2, and you create a state of intermittent hypoxia, a brief period of lower than normal oxygen. There, what happens is that stem cells start to wake up out of circulation, because stem cells hate oxygen. So they hide in your areas of the body where there's low oxygen. But if you lower the oxygen for a brief period, just by holding your breath in a certain sequence, right, in a special way, you bring the oxygen levels down, and what happens? Stem cells come out to play. And they'll go around your body and go to areas of the body that need healing. So for colon ulcerative colitis, it may go to the colon, right? If you got skin problems, it may start coming to the skin and starts the regeneration process, right? So that's one of the benefits. The other benefit is that you get into these altered states of consciousness, as I was saying before. And in these altered states of consciousness, you start to reveal your programming. You start to make peace with the past, with all that anger, the fear, the frustration, and you start to get connected to a light. It's hard to explain unless you do it, where it feels like you're being channeled by something beyond yourself. And you start to believe in a higher power. When you do this enough, magic starts happening. You start to believe in this power beyond yourself, God, the spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call it, right? And this becomes your guiding light. And I'm not kidding. Since I started to do these breathing techniques, I started to feel like I was being channeled by something beyond myself. And my mission, not a new mission, it was already there, but the mission that I was always on unfolded. It came clear to me. This is what I'm supposed to do. And then now, one thing after another, like I just keep doing these breathwork practices and real magic just keeps happening. But I've set my core identity and my core values so strong, right, and upheld it as much as I can. Sometimes you fall off it, but I've tried to stick to my core values as much as I can wherever I go, with everything I do, from the business, the culture of our company, to community, to everything I put out there in the world. As long as it ticks the box of my core values, right, then I'm doing it right. And what that does is it keeps you in this divine flow, and like just cool shit just keeps manifesting all the time. So a lot of the technique is the breath retention part, right? Holding your breath to get to this intermittent hypoxic stage, right? And these clinics get crazy results with this intermittent hypoxia protocols, right? So we just simulate what they do in the clinics, but it's free of charge because it's your breath rather than machines. And then the other part of the breath that's very powerful is the rhythmic breathing. I kind of touched on it already, that you can change your nervous system and your state with it. But when you breathe in a rhythm, right, every single function in your body is subservient. They all have rhythms. Every function has a rhythm, but they're subservient to the rhythm of your breath. So when you breathe in a rhythm, even if it's just for a few minutes a day, you bring harmony and balance back to the function of your body. So rhythmic breathing is one of the foundations, and breath retention, right? Using the breath retention in certain ways. And then the guided meditation. So the language, the words I say, we call it neurosomatic programming. The way you speak to your unconscious mind, there's a formula for it. That combination, a whole system, is our Soma breath journeys. So I made it into these like sessions you can do. Like we have an app the Solar Breath app, where we have loads of sessions with different uses, from manifesting to healing to energy to all sorts, right? And with that, um, you can really transform how you think and what you believe and what you do and your core identity much faster. So Cambridge University, right, is another story quickly. My mum always said, if you study very hard, you go to Cambridge. But didn't really listen to her, and I didn't study that hard. But in the end, I studied really hard on what I do now. But in the end, Cambridge University came to us, right? Well, to me, to study the 21-day awakening journey, which is a whole 21-day course I created based on everything I've learned and this breathwork journeys I'm talking about. And they did a study. It's the biggest breathwork study done to date, and they showed that sonar breath could be powerful non-pharmacological alternative to psychedelics, used it to treat severe depression, which is potent, powerful, because psychedelics have already been shown in studies to outperform anything else for severe depression, better than any psychiatric medication and other forms of therapy. And the mystical experience, therapists say, or the leading therapists say, is the one that's most likely to create lasting transformation. So with the breath and the right kind of music and rhythm and breath holds in the right place, you can invoke mystical experiences. You can have like near death like experiences where you go into the other. You go beyond what you think is possible.
They're a little scary too. They're a little scary when you're on the brink there. That the first time you do it, it gets a little scary, but
Yeah,
it's
but
it's
when you
powerful.
overcome that fear,
Yep.
you rewire fear, your perception of fear. I'm
I
saying.
mean, it's so powerful, and it's funny you brought the conversation there because you know I've thought a lot about the Tony Robbins approach to things and combining what Tony Robbins teaches with a lot of the things that you talked about with the breath, or even in these psychedelic experiences, it feels like it would enhance all of that transformation that is being preached.
Yes. Yes, it just supercharges everything. That's why, like, if you go to a Tony Robbins event these days, he'll do a breathwork thing at his event. He'll take people through it because it charges you, it changes your state. It creates this A dose, right, of those chemicals naturally. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that the Wim Hof method is such a great way to get introduced to this because it's such a quick, okay, I get it now. Like you do this experience and you feel the effects of it. You feel the body tingling. You feel how long you can hold your breath. You feel the power of that. And
That's
then,
another way to get the intermittent hypoxia
yep,
benefits with the Wim Hof method.
it's just it's a great introduction to that whole world to see the power of that because it's for a lot of people who haven't had the experiences that you and me have had in terms of autoimmune and seeing through a lot of the nonsense out there. You're very skeptical of anything really that goes against modern science, quote unquote. Um, I mean, it's
The
just so
people who have autoimmune disease, right? It's the body is so strong, so powerful at telling you when something's out of line, right? And it's just your body speaking to you. And people who get autoimmune disease have very strong intuition. If they listen to their body, listen to the symptoms, they're feeling, and it will come as a gut feeling first
Mhm.
or a feeling in your heart, right? You'll feel it. We feel things way more intuitively than most normal people who don't get autoimmune disease. It's a gift, it's a natural gift. That's why we have to listen to the somatic intelligence more, right? And trust it because that will help you that's how you get into flow states. When you start that's why your automatic intelligence is so important to program. So if you really work hard on yourself, program yourself with the right knowledge, wisdom, guidance, right, and beliefs, right, then you can start to trust your intuition more, right? Especially if you're clear with your core values. And then people who suffer from autoimmune can really get into flow states because you just follow your gut rather than analyzing. There's people who sit there and they analyze, trying to decide what to do. They take so long. They're so in their heads, right? Whereas us, we're much more instinctive. We can just tell what's the right thing to do without having to spend hours going over it, right? And we just take action And we can be very powerful action takers. Very, very powerful. I know like incredibly successful entrepreneurs, like billionaires who have had autoimmune diseases. I mean, some who still have the symptoms. That's why they come to me. So, yeah, it's a gift, man. I'm telling you.
Is that automatic intelligence or that body intelligence that you're describing? Is that the same thing as the subconscious mind? Would you say those two things are the same?
It's part of the unconscious mind. So it's like your circuit boards, hardwired behaviors. They are like when you get programmed as a young kid, right? For actually right from the womb to when you're born, the first birth can be quite traumatic. You get programmed. The first imprint is survival. It's your safety filter. These all form filters of how you see reality. And these create reality tunnels, like a portion of reality you go down, right? Because that's all you can see. So these perception filters are installed at an early age. The first one is whether what's safe or unsafe. So some people can be very paranoid, hyper anxious, and have a very, very strong like sense of fear, right, and danger and distrust if they had a very traumatic birth or if their mother had a lot of stress when she was pregnant, or there was a lot of stress, emotional stress in the family, or if they were detached or the mother didn't breastfeed them, right? This can create like this anxiety, hyper anxiety, and a lot of psychosomatic like feelings. So many people can have this problem actually, right? And then the second imprint is when you start to walk around for the first, or crawl around, and you start to interact with other kids. You go to nursery school. Your dad starts to play a part now. Your father imprint, and this programs emotions and your feeling and your the way you sense reality, right? Your also your intuition, and you get into your status, significance. All of this forms here when you start to interact with kids. Imagine how different you'd be if you were bullied really hard as a young kid, or if you were the biggest kid and you bullied everybody else, right? It shapes your personality. So a lot of your personality starts coming in the second imprint. First, second. The first is your hardwired reptilian brain. Second is your emotional limbic system, right? And then that forms these circuits that are very hard to shift, and they stay with you for a lot of your life. And this is actually a big part of your core identity. So we have to shake this up. So that's what all these practices that we do designed to do, is to shake this up. You have some later imprints that come in, like the third one is a semantic one, language, reason. It's like, I call it the logic app. So think of them as app survival, emotional, logic. It's your left brain starts to form, your neocortex, your left brain thinking. So this is what religion has a big part to play. They take people into schools and they program them with their language, their songs, their beliefs, and everything. Your belief systems get formed here. Number three, right? The third app. Then the fourth app is when you go through puberty and over sexual experiences, and you start to get testosterone and all the sex hormones going through your body. And this one changes your brain massively. Like you really develop the more adult part of the brain, the morals, the social responsibilities, whether you're an anarchist or a law-abiding citizen, and also your sexual preferences, whether you have crazy dark fetishes or if you are confused sexually, right? Or whether you are somebody who's going to do like the missionary position the whole life and nothing else, and so on. So these things can be formed by the things that happen to you as you start to develop sexuality, especially the first orgasm. You'll see a lot of my clients, they have a disruption here, right? Because maybe they were abused. Their first sexual experience was under abuse, or it was with somebody of the opposite sex and it confused them later on in life, right? So sexual impotence, like premature ejaculation, they can be problems that come from this time. So just think about how much of your brain and how your mind is clogged up as a kid, like young adult, 18 to like 24 even. For some people, it never stops. Thinking about just sex, of who you're gonna get, who you're gonna end up with, who you're gonna sleep with, or what are you gonna get lucky that weekend. Just think like most men of around that age, that's all they think about. It's all they've got in their mind. right? And just think how much of your actions and behaviors, and even the things you do, like the career you go after, or the nightclubs you hang out with, or the sports teams you go and join, or the fraternities in your country, right? That you'll choose to go to just so you can hook up with a suitable partner, right? So think of that, right? Those first four inputs. How much of your life is dictated by fear? How much of your life is dictated by your emotions, your significance, trying to prove yourself? I am enough type stuff, right? How much of your life is revolves around what you think you know, like your intelligence, like your beliefs about certain things, like if you don't know how to make money on the internet, right? You're not going to make money on the internet. But if you go and read a book that teaches you how to make money on the internet, you're going to suddenly know how to make money on the internet. But think about if you're conditioned to not even see making money online as a thing, because maybe your parents have always said you've got to become a doctor or an accountant or something like that, something boring. So, so then the fourth one is your sexuality. So how much does your life revolve around trying to find somebody, to marry or sleep with? So this creates your identity, these first four imprints. Breath work takes you into the higher states of consciousness, beyond those four levels of awareness, of consciousness. And you go into the mystic states from fifth, which is the bliss, the full body orgasmic bliss circuit that gets turned on by cannabis, gets turned on by tantric sex, right? Gets turned on by certain breathwork techniques. And the sixth is your intuition, and it's the circuit of third eye activation. Certain yoga techniques, Kundalini type techniques, third eye awakening, and our breathwork protocols take you into this sixth circuit. And then the seventh is like when you do like LSD. You go into a consciousness state that is beyond your own body now. You're into the collective consciousness of the whole planet. You start to get divine downloads. So LSD gets you there. Psilocybin gets you there, big enough dose, right? And then the eighth is when you go out beyond all time, space. So DMT gets you right there, right? Heavy, heavy dose of ketamine gets you there, right? But you can get there with breath practices. You can get into these super conscious states, ultra conscious states, just with the breath. And that's what the Cambridge University studies showed, was the different states of consciousness people can go into through our 21-day awakening journey, and these altered states of consciousness that allows them to reveal their life, become aware of their previous life and programming. Because these higher states of consciousness, when you get into them, it allows you to reprogram all the other apps, to defrag the drive and to start again. And that's why it's so powerful for severe depression. Because what's depression is when when you've gone so off alignment with your core identity, your truth. Your core identities become corrupted, right? It's no longer your truth. And so you have to rewire this whole program. You have to transform it. So we don't cure people in Soul Breath, we transform them. Cure just means take somebody back to who they were before they got sick. But it's who you were, it's your actions, your beliefs, your patterns, right, of behavior that got you sick in the first place. So we don't want to go back to that. We transform you, become your higher self, your better version of yourself. That's what Soul Breath's about.
And when you do like that 21-day journey that you're describing, what is the like daily actions? What are the daily breathwork practices in there? And then like for yourself now, what is your daily breathwork practice look like?
Amazing. So I usually use my app now. So on the Soma Breath app, we have all different types of sessions. We even have a breath farmer section. So the breath farmer is like my own play on Big Pharma, where we have techniques for constipation, for coughs, for colds, blocked nose, for sleeping, for um, probiotics for your gut, like breathing in the right air, oxygen to kill bad bacteria. Loads of different techniques. So I use some of those sometimes, depending on what I need. But I also use a protocol where I do this intermittent hypoxia breathwork techniques, which creates intermittent hypoxia, at least 2 doses a day, right? So that means 2 rounds of breath retention, right? So you'll find that in a lot of our Soma Breath journeys on the app, right? And I like to do it in my sauna. I have an infrared TheraSage sauna where you have your head out, and you go in, and I don't get it too hot because I want to be meditative, but I do it for a long duration, so you still get the sweat, and it takes a long time to get super hot. So it's a nice length of time to do a breathwork journey in there and combine it with sauna practice. So I usually use one of my breath rats. I take a dose of niacin, pure vitamin B3, right? Makes you flush. Really good for your mitochondria and your brain health, your cognitive function. So I take that, I have this amazing practice, and then I do a cold shower, like full on cold shower, like really as cold as I can get. And then I get on, like, sorry, I would always mix before or after my yoga sequence with push-ups, lunges, and certain body weight exercises where I'm doing it holding my breath or slowing my breath right down. And this is anaerobic exercise, best form of exercise to get all the benefits of exercise in the shortest amount of time, right? I'm a very busy guy, so I need to be really mindful of my time. And then I do like stretching and special soma breath yoga techniques where you hold your breath into the pose and I just do a few different asanas a day, right? Because it takes too long otherwise. You could be doing an hour and a half, like if you did every single one, or 2 hours, because you're holding your breath for long periods, holding the pose. So that's why I just pick a few asanas. I make my own little protocol to suit that morning. I always do my practice in the morning, and then that's it. Then I get on my day. But then I also do a lot of. I'm very active. I'm always moving around. I take my daughter to play on the beach. I go for walks. We go hiking. In Ibiza, my friend runs a company, Ibiza Hike Station, where we do 8,000 hikes a year. Right now, it's with Soma Breath. So we have these headsets. We go up into nature. We do these epic long hikes, like 3 hour long hikes. Go up to the top of the mountain, and we all do breathwork ceremonies with headsets like every week. So it's a great lifestyle in Ibiza, very nature based and stuff.
There's something so powerful about just warm weather, like being out in an environment where you could just walk around and be outside. But it's funny you brought up niacin. I just did a podcast, I think like 3 episodes ago, on um, the niacin sauna protocol for 9/11 survivors. And they
Wow.
had this whole clinic set up in the States. It was this where there was these individuals who were experiencing post 9/11 symptoms, whether it was um, a lot of respiratory issues or toxins and just a ton of inflammation. They had them do this 30-day niacin sauna protocol where they were doubling the dose of niacin every day for 30 days with an hour-long sauna. And I think it was a 92% reduction in symptoms that people experience.
There you go.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've
It
been doing
really
it
is.
for years and years and years. It's amazing benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And um, I think for a lot of people, like you were saying before, when it comes to identity, there's some aspects of themselves that um, they're not happy with and they want to change. And I think that's a great thing of wanting to improve. But so for the best place for those people to start, like they know that there's aspects of themselves that they want to fix, whether it's from a health perspective or just from a charisma perspective. They want to be able to talk to people more, have more confidence, all these things. What practice do you recommend for just people who, want to improve, want to get better, want to improve some parts of their identity?
So if you're young and curious, the first thing I would say is to become aware of the science of the breath. Once you understand the principles of healthy breathing, then you're unstoppable, man. Right? That will change your life. So we have a course on the Soma Breath app. It's free, called the Breath Works Challenge. Right? It's in the courses sections. You go there and you do that course, and it creates a routine for you to do in the mornings, right? Similar to what I just described. So do that. You don't need to have niacin, you don't need to do sauna, but it's a breath work and exercise protocol that will make you feel epic every morning, right? And it only takes like half an hour. So do that, okay? Then you'll also become like a master of the breath because of this background science that's in there. You'll know more about breathing science than most doctors with just that free course. So do that, okay? It'll set you up. And I'm a pharmacist, so I can say that, right? So then after that, I recommend do some of the tracks on the app that you like that grabs you. because there's different. I don't know what state somebody's going to be in, so there's different tracks with different intentions.
Different things they
Then,
call to different people.
yeah, then do the 21 day awakening journey. 21 awakening journey, you have to be ready for it. It's very powerful. It'll completely change your life. So if you are, not prepared for that, then you're going to be a different person at the end of it, and people around you are going to be like, who's this guy? So I recommend do the 21-day awakening journey when you're actually really ready to completely change and not be ever the same again, right? So that's a serious course to embark on.
Niraj, is there anything we haven't talked about today that we'd be remiss if we didn't cover? I mean,
Yeah, and because you were talking about the group practices, like find a Soma Breath instructor near you. Go to our Find an Instructor page on the Soma Breath website, or do one online. Plug into Zoom. There's always Zoom sessions going on, so you can feel the group community experience.
that is a great practice for people to just try out to understand that there's something weird going on with the group setting. It's
Yeah.
try the practice on your own and then try it with a group, and you'll be shocked with the difference in intensity of the experience.
Yes. You got it.
Yeah, I'm just laughing right now because I'm thinking about my brother. I took my brother to a Wim Hof class in Miami, and it's this cool place called Miami Ice Club. And what they do is everyone gathers around. We do 3 rounds of Wim Hof, and then we go in the cold. Um, and I took my brother, and my brother had done Wim Hof hundreds of times. Very experienced Wim Hof practitioner, or not actual practitioner, but in experience. And he went there, and for the first during I think like the second round, he just passed out. He passed
Oh,
out, and he had never experienced that before. Never had anything happen. It was super blissful. It was safe. He was fine. Um, but it just goes to show. I mean, there's like something weird and different, and
on the group.
yeah, in the group aspect of it.
Well, you become more encouraged to go deeper
Mm,
without the fear, because you're around other people that you feel a bit more comfortable sometimes.
yeah, there is
Go deeper.
that fear is strong. It's weird. You wouldn't think about doing breath work and feeling an intensity of fear, um, but it comes up. It comes up,
It
and
does when you're holding your breath that long,
yeah,
yeah.
no doubt, no doubt.
And when you overcome it, then that fear gets reprogrammed. As I was saying, that's your survival instincts. That's your first imprint. So then it rubs off on other areas of your life. Maybe you've been scared to go out and do something like start a new business. That fear gets taken away. You start to have more drive and courage.
I mean, it's there's no doubt about that, and there's also something weird that happens, and I don't know too much about this. I have a friend who um, experienced some really bad back pain for a long time. He's a guest of the podcast, and he was trying everything. He was desperate, and he finally had the biggest positive transformation from doing intense breath work. And he had like this traumatic release that came out, which so weird. I mean, I wouldn't expect those things to be connected. And then his back pain went away. He was doing this
Wow.
breath work, started crying, it was a real emotional experience for him. And then this back pain they had every single day for years and years just totally went away.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, and I can't
Well,
even make sense of it.
yeah, well, chronic back pain is often emotions trapped in the somatic intelligence. So it's stored there as a memory from the past to stop you from going and doing the same thing again. It's like a muscle memory, they call it, right? So when you do certain breathwork practices, it takes you into these altered states of consciousness, and this is all happening on unconscious level. You start to see that past as a past, and you realize it's something you don't need anymore, and you release it. So this rhythmic breathing stuff, long enough, conscious connected breath work is very powerful at healing things like chronic back pain. So it goes.
The list goes on and on. Niraj, anything we haven't talked about today that we should cover that we would regret not mentioning?
Well, you could mention that we train instructors. So, my big mission is to get as many people out there being ambassadors of the breath. Soma Breath, I believe, is one of the most comprehensive schools out there. We've got Cambridge University studies, peer reviewed. We've got all these endorsements from people like Mind Valley to Ben Greenfield to so on and so forth, even Dave Asprey and all these huge influencers in this space. I mean, that doesn't. I don't care about that. What matters is the testimonials. If you see our results, they're like mind blowing. Like, so I want to get more people out there. It's my answer to the big pharma problem that we got. And so we need ambassador of the breath, meaning we want to train people to run these breathwork workshops wherever they are. And then you can start like that, and then you can build a whole career where you go from doing group like breathwork classes or just for friends and family or just a local studio into become a full-blown festival breathwork instructor to tell spiritual rock star and a transformational coach or an artist, transformational artist, where you're creating your own breathwork journeys. You're sequencing things yourself, you're guiding the sessions yourself, and then where you can do one-on-one coaching as well, where you can earn significantly more as a result. So that's what I recommend people to do. Is if you want to start a new career, or maybe start something on the side like I did. I was a pharmacist, and then on the side I was a raver running raves. You can do things together. You can balance it, and you could create a breathwork career. You could create a summer breath career, a coaching career. It's transformational coaching, and you can actually go and make an impact in the world. And you can even use these techniques for yourself, your friends, your family, and help others to transform. So not just yourself. So that's why I'm calling out to more people, even young people.
Niraj, any if for the person that's listening to this and they want to check out the app and they want to experience one of the practices for themselves, any ones you recommend? Any of your favorite ones that you think people should start with or would be fun to experience?
Well, one of the most potent ones, I'll show you the image. It's the most popular ones is called Limitless. So if you go into the Soma Breath journey, into the app, you'll see there's Limitless. There's also the white right next to it, another manifesting experiment came true. A journey to Satori. So Satori in Ibiza, well, he lives here, but internationally, he's a really big artist, music artist, and he was one of my inspirations years ago. Around 8, 9 years ago, I used to watch his like YouTube videos. I was like, this stuff's really cool. I'd love to do something with him one day. And I started to make music like it. I got very inspired. In the end, it turned out that he had been doing the Wim Hof Method app with my music on it for years instead of doing drugs and alcohol like all the other DJs. So he was a major breathwork fan. We met, we connected, and he ended up making a breathwork journey with me. And then this summer, I did a whole breath rave with him doing the music live, which was insane in Ibiza. So like nobody's ever done anything like that before. So check out those two, the first two things you see on the app. But then the deeper ones go much deeper, like the 1 hour ones.
Yeah, because those two are just over 20 minutes for the
Yeah,
person just listening.
the really powerful, longer one. There's one called the Higher Power, which is one of the most powerful ones you're going to do. So,
Is there anyone that testimonial wise people seem to gravitate towards, or you just see how
Limitless.
Limitless is the one that people
Yeah,
always talk about?
yeah.
Sweet.
And these are really good as well. The Higher Power.
Higher powers.
You type that into the search.
Sweet.
You have 3 different versions, but the long one, which is called just the Higher Power, is one of those sessions you'll do and you will never feel the same ever again
Woo.
afterwards.
Gotta try it
Very
out.
good. It's 1 hour.
Very cool. Very exciting. Niraj, thank you so much for doing this today. Um, I mean, I love your journey. I think it's fascinating, and there's not enough people exploring or taking actions against the common path, which is always something that I salute to. So appreciate you. Thank you for taking time today.
Much love, brother. Great questions. So it's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.